Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm taking you to the Ultra League, where we're taking a look at a terrifying duo that is hyper offense and maximum damage. This is the duo of Raikou and Shadow Cacturne. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Tom, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Raikou is running Thundershock, Aura Sphere, and Shadow Ball, and Shadow Cacturne is always terrifying with its monster attack stat, Sucker Punch, and its ability to boost up with Trailblaze. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we're off to an okay start leading Raikou into Cradily. Raikou boasts a big pacing advantage in this matchup, but Aura Sphere, even though it's an incredibly efficient attack, will not one-shot. Cradily can hold on. However, there's nothing that Rock Tomb users love more than to shield and apply debuffs, so they do just that. Aura Sphere gets shielded, Rock Tomb lands, and suddenly Aura Sphere is a lot less threatening. But the opponent still does not want the Aura Sphere to land. They end up making a catch of the Aura Sphere that's debuffed on a Toucannon. But it's the Shadow Toucannon. They take big damage from that debuffed Aura Sphere, and now in comes Lapras. Lapras unable to make the Aria before the Beak Blast is reached. Beak Blast connects, and that's devastating damage. Lapras gonna farm up just shy of the back-to-back Sparkling Arias. This is the perfect overfarm, taking the knockout right before they make the drill back. But the opponent double shields, and that is a pretty big risk, because they now have no ability to protect themselves from the wrath of Shadow Cacturne. In comes Cacturne, and that's going to be immediately answered with the Cradily. Cradily will fire off the Rock Tomb. These acids are shredding through the Cacturne. Cacturne, oh my goodness, the CMP sack swap, waiting the turn, firing off the Aura Sphere on the CMP tie. And that is absolute devastation for the opponent. They undercharge the Rock Tomb, looking for a big farm down, but they only get 4 acids. They needed 5. They get farmed down by the Cacturne. In comes Toucannon. They reveal their final Pokemon is Drifblim, and Drifblim's about to get absolutely deleted. Trailblaze lands onto the Drifblim, another Trailblaze from the Cacturne, and Cacturne is just taking over this game. Another Trailblaze is going to land. Cacturne gets the farm down. In comes Toucannon. The Peck does not take the knockout, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a bit of a scary lead, leading Raikou into Primeape. Primeape has massive damage for this entire team. Raikou's getting a no-shield, hoping it is just going to be the Rage Fist, but no! Close Combat lands, devastating damage. In comes Armored Mewtwo to immediately be answered with the Shadow Cacturne. These Sucker Punches are adding up, but Cacturne would get deleted by Dynamic Punch, so Cacturne will put up the shield, looking to overfarm quite a bit, and CMP tie Trailblaze to Dynamic Punch number 2. Now, at the very least, Cacturne will be able to force a shield if the opponent is trying to force a final shield. Cacturne is more than happy to shield back, as Cacturne will exit healthy, and it will exit with a boosted Trailblaze locked and loaded. Opponent's going to send back in the Primeape, but Primeape is going to hate this, and if they shield, they could potentially get combo played. Trailblaze, there's the combo play. In comes Raikou, firing off the Shadow Ball. This Shadow Ball deals devastating damage. Primeape barely hangs on, but this is perfect Psywave downrange for the Lapras. In comes the Lapras, opponent pivots out. Their final Pokemon is revealed to be a Shadow Blastoise. If this Blastoise is running Skull Bash, this game could get very, very tricky. Sparkling Aria is going to land. That does do quite a bit of damage as Blastoise farms up. Moment of truth. Do they have Skull Bash? They do not. They just have Hydro Cannon, and that is a big swing of momentum. In comes Cacturne. Cacturne gets some very valuable Sucker Punch damage onto the Blastoise, as Blastoise will take the KO with Ice Beam. Back in comes the Lapras, but Lapras basically just needs 2 Sparkling Arias. Blastoise Hydro Cannon is going to land. Lapras anticipates the switch in and fires off the Hydro Cannon. Primeape needed to land a charge attack. It's not going to get there. Back in comes the Blastoise. Lapras gets to the Sparkling Aria. The energy management was perfection. Down goes Blastoise, and that's a good game. We move to the next match, Raikou into Talonflame, a very nice matchup. Opponent safe switches into Regidrago, but disaster strikes as it's Cacturne that gets switched in instead of the Ice Beam Lapras. Lapras would have a very comfortable matchup here, but Cacturne, even with a Vice Grip bait, gets absolutely deleted. The idea here may be, though, to throw away the Cacturne on the Regidrago, and then Talonflame only has bad matchups going up against Raikou and the Lapras. So, Cacturne actually wins the Zero Shield there against all odds, no shield in the Vice Grip, and Talonflame farms down just to get answered with the Raikou. Now, Raikou is not running Wild Charge, but obviously the opponent does not yet know that, so we should see a shield here on the Shadow Ball. Although, to be honest, the Shadow Ball will still do quite a bit of damage. Raikou with an O-Shield, calling that they're on double flying. They go for the fly. Raikou survives, and there's another fly fired off by the Talonflame. The question will be, will this next Incinerate take the knockout? Oh my goodness, Raikou risks it and barely hangs on. It did not survive that by much. Shadow Ball gets the shield. Unfortunately, there's a snipe down by Guzzlord. Lapras is still very well positioned to close out this game, but losing that Aura Sphere definitely does sting. Guzzlord fires off Sludge Bomb, and look at that pitiful damage. This is an XL Lapras, 0-13-4, the definition of bulk. It simply does not care about what Guzzlord is throwing. Lapras launching the Ice Beam at the Guzzlord will need a second Ice Beam to deliver the KO here, and Guzzlord will fire off another Brutal Swing. This can be no-shielded, but it will be getting this Lapras very, very low. In comes Talonflame, only going to throw a couple Side Waves to ensure that the Incinerate damage does not register. That's very important because Lapras needs to be able to survive the Dragon Tails. Again, the energy management from this player is very, very strong. Ice Beam KOs Guzzlord and takes the win. We move to the next match, Raikou into Shadow Dusknoir. This is going to be a very tricky game, as Dusknoir, I imagine, does very well against Raikou and does very well against Lapras as well. The no shield comes out from Raikou, Shadow Punch, pretty significant damage. Raikou gonna go for an Aura Sphere bait. This is risky, but Dusknoir's love to shield. Dusknoir will put up the shield. Raikou barely able to hang on and make the last second Shadow Ball. This will easily one-shot. Opponent double shields Dusknoir, aggressive pivot into the Cacturn, and look at the damage. Just like that, Dusknoir already deep into the red HP as Cacturn puts up the shield. The Shadow Punch bait, Cacturn farms down. Are we about to see a 1v3? They send in a Volt Switch Fortress, and this Cacturn's about to sweep. There's no way it isn't. Volt Switch Fortress is about to get 2-hit KO'd by Dynamic Punch. Fortress plays to a CMP tie. It can never hope to win. Dynamic Punch takes the knockout. In comes Guzzlord. And the icing on the cake is a catch onto the Raikou. Completely unnecessary catch. But that is an incredibly funny way to close out a game. Back in comes the Cacturn. Cacturn had a shield, by the way. Cacturn did not have to do that, but lands Dynamic Punch, Psywaves down with Lapras, and secures the win. Raikou versus Empoleon, the dream lead in the next match. Empoleon gonna pivot out into Gastrodon, and Gastrodon will be answered with the Lapras. Could have sent in Cacturn, but Cacturn is so frail that a Body Slam landing might actually allow Gastrodon to get a Mud Slap down. So I really like the decision to bring in the Lapras here. Lapras is just incredibly bulky, and it appears this Gastrodon is not on Earth Power, which means they can't really damage this Lapras. They can throw Body Slam after Body Slam, but Lapras just does not really care. Another Body Slam will connect. Lapras farming up past the Ice Beam and gonna go for the Sparkling Aria. Sparkling Aria is gonna connect. That's going to be getting the Gastrodon pretty low. Potentially, if Lapras did go for double Ice Beam, it could Psywave down here. Whereas now, it's going to have to throw the Sparkling Aria. Lapras, yeah, can't quite get that farm down. Ice Beam does do slightly more damage. Sparkling Aria will be shielded, and unfortunately, switch advantage has been lost. In comes Raikou. Raikou going to be no shielding. Gastrodon fires out the Body Slam. That won't do much. Gastrodon does get another Mud Slap as Raikou does get the farm down. And in the back is Florges. Florges not going to CMP tie the Raikou as Raikou goes for Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does not land, but another Shadow Ball loaded for the Raikou, and it wins charge stack priority over the Florges. Shadow Ball lands. Florges locked in what we assume is going to be a Chilling Water. Chilling Water lands. Raikou holds on, but what are you going to do against the 2-shield Shadow Cacturn? The answer is nothing. I think you just lose at this point. Chilling Water is shielded. Cacturn now at -1. But Cacturn gets the launch Dynamic Punch. Keep in mind, this damage is debuffed, and it still almost picks up the 1-hit KO. Empoleon able to make the last second Drill Peck, but it's just not going to save the Empoleon. Empoleon gets farmed down. Back in comes the Florges, and there is the Trailblaze. Shadow Cacturn, you absolute menace. Down goes Florges, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, Raikou versus Empoleon. The same lead, run back once again. This Empoleon stays in for a bit, safe switching into Giratina, and Giratina will swiftly be answered with the Cacturn. Dragon Claw would inflict some pretty massive damage. I don't think Cacturn wants that to land, so Cacturn will put up the shield and go for the resisted Trailblaze. Cacturn wants to boost up these Sucker Punches as fast as it possibly can because it does not want Giratina to make it to another charge tag. Opponent sends out Clefable. Clefable, these Fairy Winds do add up, but since Fairy Wind doesn't have a lot of base damage, this is a rare moment where Cacturn can survive super effective fast move pressure, and Cacturn's getting to a second Trailblaze. Cacturn just taking over this game. Trailblaze after Trailblaze, purely off Sucker Punch damage. That Clefable is into the yellow health. Oh my goodness. These battles have me checking my Pokemon Go account to see if I have Cacturn XLs, and unfortunately, it appears I do not. I only have 120, so I cannot build one myself, but this Pokemon just looks so fun. In comes Empoleon, answered by the Raikou. Raikou gonna be no shielding as Hydro Cannon lands, but Raikou just does not care. Raikou farming up to the back-to-back Aura Spheres. I mean, this is just gonna be game over for the Empoleon. Aura Sphere lands. Oh, I stand corrected. Empoleon barely hangs on. Empoleon hangs on very low HP. Empoleon, unfortunately, just going to get farmed down, though, and there's the Shadow Ball loaded for Clefable. So that Cacturn was just a wrecking ball mid-game, and with the shield advantage, Raikou is just far too deadly. We move to the next game, Raikou into Shadow Zapdos, and Zapdos is completely walled. Zapdos going to save switch into Giratina, and this is actually the Dragon Breath Giratina. Dragon Breath not doing nearly as much fast move pressure as it would have in previous seasons. Dragon Claw gets shielded, and Cacturn will ramp up with the Trailblaze. These boosted Sucker Punches are about to absolutely shred the poor Zapdos. Giratina this time going to put up the shield. Giratina does make a last-second charge attack. And unfortunately for the Zapdos, you can't ever really farm this down. You'll have to throw a Drill Peck. And this Cacturn is already boosted. Opponent gonna choose to send in Tentacruel, and I don't think Tentacruel is gonna like what happens if they no-shield this. They put up the shield. These acids are adding up, but look at the Sucker Punches. Again, the Sucker Punches almost have Tentacruel at half HP. Even if Tentacruel does have Payback, Payback just can't help Tentacruel enough in this matchup. The health disparity is too great. Payback after Payback can land. Lapras just simply does not care, and Raikou can just switch in and win the game at any moment. Raikou not even going to be brought in here. Lapras will just take the KO with the Sparkling Aria, and then it's time. Poor Zapdos completely walled by the Raikou. There was just never anything the opponent could do. They were ABA weak to the Raikou, and unfortunately, that's game over. This is a very bad lead in the next match, leading Raikou into Pangoro. Pangoro is able to inflict massive damage with close combat. Raikou gonna call the bait, and calls the bait successfully. That is the only way that Raikou can generate an advantage in this matchup. Raikou has to successfully call a Night Slash bait, because if it ends up shielding a Night Slash, it ends up behind, and it's always just gonna get hit with the close combat. Opponent actually pivots out into Doublade, but this is a very big problem for Cacturn. Cacturn will take big super effective damage from Sacred Sword, but I forgot, Doublade is terrible. Sacred Sword does not KO a Shadow Cacturn. Cacturn forces a shield from Doublade. Oh my goodness, Doublade is never beating the allegations of being a truly terrible Pokemon. Doublade fires off the Sacred Sword. Why did that do nothing to Lapras? Lapras, more than happy to absorb a second Sacred Sword. If that's all the Doublade is gonna do, that is so fine for Lapras. Lapras gonna watch for a switch out. There's the switch out into Credilli, but Credilli is not going to appreciate Ice Beam. Lapras, this Ice Beam coverage is so nice, and Lapras is so far ahead. It's getting to Ice Beam number 2. Credilli gets absolutely no value, as in a split second it's sent back to the Pokeball. Down goes Credilli, looking to immediately pivot into Raikou. Opponent sends in Pangoro just to get deleted by Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere lands, Panda hangs on, but not enough to make a charge attack. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping to the final match, leading Raikou into Fortress. We'll have to check the fast move on the Fortress, and it is going to be Volt Switch. Volt Switch does unfortunately mean that they're going to be rocking Earthquake. A shielded Earthquake or a no-shielded Rock Tomb would be a massive swing of momentum for the Raikou. Raikou's no shielding. If this is an Earthquake, this is going to hurt, and it is! Earthquake rocks the Raikou. Raikou barely able to hang on as it undertaps the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands, that does get Fortress pretty low, but in comes Cacturn. Cacturn gets a full farm down. Cacturn up on energy, but unfortunately in comes Toucannon. Opponent reveals they are so weak to Lapras as their final Pokemon is shown to be Golurk. But they are very soft to the Ice Water coverage of Lapras. Lapras is going to have to put the team on its back. Lapras CMP ties here with the Golurk. Lapras could consider letting this go, and does, and it's a Shadow Punch, and now the game is over. The opponent, I don't think they have an ability to win anymore. Sparkling Aria will take the KO. Back in comes Toucannon. But Toucannon has to fire off the drill pack. Lapras should be safe to shield here because Lapras can force the shield with the Sparkling Aria. If they no shield, they're just getting farmed down by Sucker Punches, and if they shield, it's Dynamic Punch time. In comes Shadow Cacturn, and this is not a sight I thought I would ever see. Shadow Cacturn flipping the script in what should be its worst matchup. It's taken the knockout, Dynamic Punch KOs Toucannon, and that is a good game. All in all, I can't think of a better way to end off this rotation of Ultra League than with some high action, high octane Ultra League battles. These battles, man, I really wish that I had Cacturn XLs. My guess is there was probably a Cacnea event or a Cacnea Spotlight Hour that I just didn't play, and now I have regrets because this Pokemon looks incredibly fun. I know Shadow Cacturn is always listed as a Pokemon for fun rather than for climbing, but man, with good energy management and with a well-supported team, Cacturn can absolutely shred. This trainer mentioned in the notes that they were battling in the 26 to 2700s, and I believe they mentioned that in the Ultra Holiday Cup, they reached a high of 2850 with it with a slightly different team. So Shadow Cacturn proving its worth even against some top open Ultra League players. I did get to play a little bit of Ultra League this week. Unfortunately, normally my queue times were too bad where I couldn't really get consistent games, but I do feel like this is a very solid Ultra League meta. The Dragon Tail rework, in my eyes, made Zygarde a lot worse to run, which I think was a pretty huge net win for the open Ultra League meta. The one downside of the Ultra League meta is the Parabolic Charge nerf really didn't affect Thundershock Belly Bolt. In my eyes, Sucker Punch Belly Bolt was never really the problem, but now that its pacing is worse, Sucker Punch Belly Bolt is basically extinct and people only run the Thundershock variant. So with Thundershock Belly Bolt still around, I do think at some point they will probably, whether it's via a second Parabolic Charge nerf or I don't even know what else they could do, they probably just have to target Parabolic Charge to try and reduce Belly Bolt's influence even more, because I think as some of these like really meta warping Pokemon are, their influence is diminished in the meta, then you can run a lot more fun stuff, which I'm a really big fan of. Back in the times of peak Zygarde, you could never run a core like Raikou plus Shadow Cacturn because it would just get stomped by Zygarde. But now with Zygarde's influence waning dramatically due to the fact that it doesn't have the fast move pressure that it once had, even though Zygarde is arguably more flexible than it's ever been, that's not the reason that people ran it. The reason people ran it was that it was unfathomably bulky and it could RPS things. So now that it can't RPS things as well and is a bit more flexible, people are benching it, which is actually pretty funny. So I do really like the fact that in a weird way, in making it more flexible, they made it so people don't want to run it because the people who are running it ran it for its ability to RPS things, and now it doesn't really RPS things anymore. It's a bit more flexible, and therefore you can actually kind of play around it better. So I do really like the direction that the current Open Ultra League meta is going, which I think is at a bit of odds with the direction that I think the Open Great League meta is going, which I think it's going in a bit of a negative way. But all in all, a very fun video to end out the rotation. I feel like I've probably yapped for way too long at the end of this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. Thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.